Have you ever been shocked into silence? Have you ever been afraid to speak up? Or maybe you're even unsure on whether you should or whether you shouldn't. The title of my speech today is A Time to Speak Up. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7 tells us there is a time to be silent and a time to speak up. And part of controlling the tongue is knowing when to use it. So today I want to focus on speaking up, because while a lot of people struggle with staying silent, many more actually struggle with when to say something and when they should speak up, and some might even find it harder to do so. So, when should we speak up? Let's look at some scriptural examples, starting with Matthew chapter 14. That gives us the account of when Herod arrested Yochanan because he told him that he couldn't have his brother's wife. He saw that was taking place, and he said, hey, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, this is not lawful for you, this is not right. In Numbers chapter 13, we see the account of when Moshe sent out 12 men from the 12 tribes to go spy out the land of Canaan, because Yahweh wanted to give them that land. And 10 of them came back and gave a negative report and spread false information about it. But one man, Caleb, he spoke up above them and was like, no, this land is actually very capable of being taken over, and we can go do it. The story doesn't end very well because everyone believed the bad report, but it doesn't change the fact that he did speak up and try to salvage the situation and not just let his fellow mates lie. And then we have Matthew 23. Yeshua was one of our greatest examples of this. And in that chapter, I'm going to read a few verses. Matthew 23, starting at verse 1. Then Yeshua spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and Pharisees are appointed to Moshe's office, teachers of Yahweh's law. Therefore, obey and practice everything they tell you to observe, but do not imitate their works, for they preach, but they do not practice. For they tie up heavy burdens hard to be carried, and lay them upon men's shoulders, but they themselves would not lift a finger to move them. So, and I would encourage you all to read the entire chapter of Matthew 23, because Yeshua here is just exposing to his disciples that, hey, these supposed teachers, so-called teachers of Yahweh's law, they are hypocrites. They abuse people. They do things they're not supposed to be doing. We should not follow them. Y'all should just ignore their behaviors, right? And all of these people, what they all had in common is they spoke up when they saw injustice and sin taking place. That is a reason to speak up. And Pastor was also our living example of this. He never kept silent about the unrighteousness that he saw taking place, not only in the world, but also if he saw unrighteousness taking place in Yahweh's house, he spoke up and he said something about it. And he encouraged us to do the same. In the 8th book of Israel, chapter 27, verse 66, he says, but you can't agree with evil. You can't sit and condone it. Either you speak out against it or you're a part of it. Just not having a part in it is not enough. Just not getting out there and taking the axe that chopped the person's head off, not being a part of the one who holds the handle, but supporting those that do is just as bad. So he's telling us there that we're just as guilty if we keep silent about any sins or injustices that we see. So if we see someone breaking Yahweh's laws, we should say something to someone who can help. And finally, let's look at the account of Queen Hadassah. She gives us another example of someone who spoke up. Haman, in that situation, was wanting to murder all of her people simply because Mordecai would not bow down to him. And when she heard of this, she was a little hesitant at first because she was like, well, if I go before the king and I'm not summoned, I might get put to death. But Mordecai encouraged her to go ahead and do it anyway. In Hadassah chapter 4, verse 14, he said, for if you persist in keeping silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. So he was saying, now is not the time for you to keep silent. This is your time, girl. Go ahead and speak up for us to save us. And she went ahead and did that. And so in that case, she was not only speaking up for the injustice of innocent people being murdered, she was speaking up because people were in danger. People were in harm's way. And so that's another reason for us to speak up. And whenever you know someone is in danger, in harm's way, you should say something about it. And I'd also like to add that someone could also be yourself. If you're having, thoughts of wanting to harm yourself, or you're doing something that could lead to your demise, tell somebody that can help you out, because you also do not deserve to be in a place that you can be harmed. And finally, we are also told to speak out for those who can't speak out for themselves. Proverbs 31 verse 8-9 tells us this, to speak out for the widows, for the poor, for the needy, for the children, the orphans, anyone who's vulnerable, and people might be breaking the law towards them and they might not be in a position to say for themselves that they need to be helped. So in those situations, we should also speak up for those people. So in closing, there is so many examples that Yahweh gives us where it is necessary to speak up. Remember, wisdom is being able to discern when it is time to speak up or to be silent. So let's pay attention and remain on guard. Whenever you see injustice, whenever we see sin, if you know of someone in harm's way, or simply know of someone being harmed or being treated unfairly and they can't speak up for themselves, you speak up. And don't be afraid to do so, because it's the right thing to do. Please stand and welcome our next speaker.